The other top story tonight, a humanitarian crisis caused by Donald Trump using what many call child abuse as a tool of government policy. What's new tonight? The estimates that it's now nearly 2,000 migrant children ripped from their parents under these new orders from the Trump administration. Now, this is a serious issue. Children's lives do literally hang in the balance. Donald Trump caused this crisis. He originally took credit for it, but now what's changing here, where the humanitarian crisis meets, if you want to call it, the politics, is that the heat is so high, Donald Trump is running from what he did. And tonight I can report Donald Trump is lying about his policy, which raises the question, Mr. President, if you are so ashamed now of your policy, if it is heartless, why not halt it instead of lying about it? A factual warning, what I'm about to show you is not true.
People say, look, you rip these families apart, even though it is the law, it's heartless.
But that's the law, and that's what the Democrats gave us. The Democrats forced that law upon our nation. I hate it. I hate to see separation of parents and children.
That's false. And we know it is a lie because Donald Trump and his Attorney General explicitly created this policy orphaning children. This is important, so let's get into it. I'm going to show you the proof tonight. This is the Trump administration memo from this April, signed by Jeff Sessions. This is the proof. And what this does, the reason this is happening tonight and this weekend and every day that this policy continues, is that the Trump administration shifted from a long-standing set of policies that prioritized enforcement against immigrants deemed more dangerous and offered more protection for folks who are not considered dangerous, as well as for children and families. Now, this new Trump policy orders a, quote, zero-tolerance policy for all offenses and states emphatically the zero-tolerance policy supersedes those other existing policies I mentioned, meaning the more family-oriented policies of past administrations, in both parties, by the way, are now out. These are the facts. Now, politicians may deny their own role in creating problems, but we have an obligation here to report the facts. And when the evidence shows that politicians are lying, which is a higher bar, we'll report that too. This is a Trump policy. These are legally segregated camps for children orphaned by this Trump policy. It's not a congressional law that requires it, and these are not cities, these are not tent communities, or any other Trump-Wellian branded spin. Now, what's the impact? Take one case. We're going to play for you a little bit of new audio. This is from inside an immigration courtroom where a mother, and if you want to think like a human being, imagine this is a mother you know. If you want, imagine this is your mother, because it's any mother, because this is any situation that someone could end up in. And listen as a mother tries to find out when she'll see her son again.
Well, I was told when I was separated from my son that you were going to tell me when I was going to be joined with my son again.
I don't know who told you that, but you were told it incorrectly. I have no information regarding your child.
That's what's going on. That's one case, one mother, one child. That's the reality. Now, what about how it looks under this administration? Well, in another Trump-Wellian tactic, Trump's aides have been focused more on changing the images of this crisis than the policy on the ground that I was just telling you about. So the family separation is continuing while Trump aides push this tightly controlled imagery. On the left, you can see the video from the administration that tries to depict a safe environment. On the right, we have the reported facts for you investigators. In only Texas, for example, have already found health care problems, mistreatment of children, a lack of supervision, and a widespread inattention to the government-inflicted trauma on children and parents alike. I'm joined now by Texas State Senator Jose Rodriguez. A site in his district will be one of the first places they set up these camps. I'm also joined by Victoria DeFrancesco, a professor at the University of Texas, and Natalie Cornelio, an attorney for the Texas Civil Rights Project. She has spent time with a mother whose baby was allegedly taken from her during breastfeeding, one of the stories that's gotten so much attention. Can you tell us about that, Natalia?
Hi, good afternoon. I can tell you that that mother's story is one of many that we received in speaking to parents that were separated from their kids, that expressed on behalf of the parent a trauma that was experienced by both the parent and the child. It's one of many. That's what I can tell you about that story.
Let me play Jeff Sessions saying that they're basically being criticized unfairly, talking about the mean-spirited accusations. Take a listen.
There are politicians and activists who think having any border at all, it seems, any limit whatsoever, any enforcement activity that's taken is mean-spirited, unkind, even bigoted.
Victoria, your response?
So it's about following the law. And if we are following the law, then we should not be jailing asylum seekers. And we're getting reports that among those people who are getting sent to federal prisons, especially the adults who are separated out from their children, are folks who are coming to this country, turning themselves in and saying, I am here for asylum. So that in of itself is breaking the law. And I think a point of clarification here is the difference between an economic refugee, an economic immigrant and a humanitarian immigrant. The economic immigrant is the one who's coming here because the U.S. keeps the demand up for them, and the humanitarian immigrant is the one fleeing that strife that we hear about in Central America. And that immigrant in particular should be offered the letter of the law in terms of those protections. The immigrant, the adult, and their child, but we're seeing none of that.
Senator Rodriguez, I want to play a little more from inside that courtroom again as we try to get what we can. A lot of this has been deliberately prevented from access by the public, by the press, by the members of Congress who would appear to have some standing, and we've been reporting on that. But this is new sound of a judge basically telling this mother why, under the Trump administration policies, she can't even hear about where her child is, let alone be reunited. Take a listen.
Immigration doesn't call the court for me personally and tell me what happened to your child. If they did do that, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. I'd be happy to relay the information to you if I could, but they don't do that. So hopefully somebody will get in touch with you through that side of the government.
Hopefully someone will get in touch with you. Walk us through your view of this for any parent watching at home, imagining being told that about what amounts to a missing child.
Well, Ari, what I can tell you is that there has been plenty of testimony by pediatricians, by psychiatrists, and other healthcare providers about the tremendous harm that is being caused on these children when they are in detention centers with their parents, like they have some here in Texas. Can you imagine now what it's like for them if they're not there with their parents, as is happening now under this zero-tolerance policy? The harm we're talking about is stunted growth, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other mental health conditions that linger the trauma for years and years into their lives. So, yes, the problems that this causes are tremendous, both for the children and the parents. This policy is misguided, as Victoria has pointed out. It's cruel. And I think that as Americans, we should not tolerate this. This is a country where we value freedom, where we value civil rights, where we value the human beings, and yet we are now taking a lead in the world of acting as many other cases across the world, in the Middle East, in North Africa, and other places where you have refugees all in encampments, in tent cities, and living in miserable conditions. So regardless of what Trump says, it's obvious that he's disregarding not only federal law, as was pointed out by Victoria, for asylum seekers, but also international law. And the spokesperson for the United Nations has already indicated that this is just not a normal way of treating
Natalia,
children.
you're nodding. Go ahead.
I am nodding. This is absolutely a violation of international human rights law. And actually, the way that the Texas Civil Rights Project got involved in this was filing a petition on behalf of 5 persons that were separated, 5 parents that were separated from their kids, asking the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights to order that they be reunited, exactly in the way that Senator Rodriguez just described. This is absolutely a violation of human rights law, not just a violation of the rights of the parents, but of these children.
And Victoria, briefly, do you think when people see what's really going on, they will see the sickness that's being perpetrated in the name of the U.S. government?
Yes, and that's why we have to keep pushing to get more access into these facilities, because when it's blinded by the doors keeping the media out, keeping nonprofit organizations that want to seek to help out these children, we don't have that knowledge to push for these changes. In the last couple of days, we've seen more coverage of this, and this is helping in the effort to stop this horrendous, heart-wrenching process.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.